Let her conquer fear and fall like a soul. I run into the heat of day, like a knife I fight until the fight is won. In the rain I save each and every one till this war is won.
Let me tell you of him, the legend of Siwa, the shadow who is Bayek. Bayek, Bayek, Bayek. Bayek.
Sounds like quite a man.
Okay, I'm going to start this video off by showing you my hand and saying that I'm basically doing this video off of the back of Wikipedia because I forgot almost everything that happened in it. I can remember the vague details. Bayek is called to Sinai to help with the local assassins out of their shit fits with the local Roman guards, and then a bunch of people died in the desert because, like the main game, the Templars of this game are so cartoonishly evil that nothing they do makes any goddamn sense. I think the conflict had grown a bit too far, and so the Romans called in an armada to help quell the assassin uprising, so the whole working in the shadow thing was apparently not working out. I suppose that sounds like a decent setup to a more bigger expansion that could be fleshed out later, but if that was the case, then how come I can't remember those fleshed out details that would have provided the support to the overall narrative and made it interesting? After looking through Wikipedia's take on what was going on in Sinai, the answer was that Ubisoft just didn't bother. That's because the Hidden Ones is the cheap of the usual 2 DLCs they put out. But it's hard to call the Hidden Ones a cheap DLC at $10 when it provides a whole 16 original quests. Seriously, try telling someone that the Elder Scrolls 6 or Red Dead Redemption 2 would be selling expansions with a grand total of 15 quests total, and see how far you can get on that one. Ha 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 ha. To be fair to Ubisoft, by WoW standards, the side quests at least have something going on. They aren't going to stand out, but at least they're an average use of your time. I don't know if it'll justify the cost to you, but for objectivity's sake, I'm going to estimate that you get 4 to 5 hours of total content, and you get a moderately large-sized map out of the bargain. Is Sinai an interesting place? Not in the slightest. Some sort of port town hewed out of the side of a mountain, so the entire landscape is pretty drab and the water part of it never gets used for anything, so make of that what you will. Plus, a couple of the quests have incredibly obtuse waypoint markers, which will annoy you, especially since one of them involves the first real quest you do on arrival. Like seriously, this is the quest that you get about 10 minutes into the DLC and there's already a massive problem. When you eventually figure out where the secret tunnel entrance to the Bureau is, you'll finally be given all the details of why Bayek was invited to this region, and that's because a couple of the assassins fucked up, instigating a bigger military presence from Rome that is now oppressing the people in a generic and sadistic fashion. In order to get to the head of the assault, Rufio, Bayek is tasked with killing the 3 local bigwig Templars that are enslaving people. The assassinations in the game are patently pathetic, and rather than employing any sort of curated difficulty or map design, Ubisoft decides to just plonk the targets in a reused area of the map in the middle of a ton of soldiers and just tells you to figure it out. If you do story DLCs in totality like I do, then thankfully Ubisoft gives you a free boost to level 50 if you also purchase the Curse of the Pharaohs for $20, which is why the footage you are seeing right now shows me at an unattainable level for the Hidden Ones by itself. It didn't really help much in the long run since Ubisoft's combat design is still moronic enough that even enemies 4 or 5 levels below me were still able to chop my health bar into little damn pieces. It was a fun thing to add to the game, considering most of my runs fucked up the stealth as per usual, and so I had to fight my way through every one of their employees. And unlike the Templar targets from the main game, there has been zero character work with any of the assassination targets in the game except the last one. Hell, a bunch of them don't even get honorifics or last names, and barely any additional design work done to differentiate them from the Romans you'll be killing in sackloads throughout the hidden ones. This is the stuff that you can find in DLCs throughout video games in general that points out which DLCs were the ones where time was put in and which ones were just jobs hammered out in several months without ideas or care. It gets pretty facepalm worthy because even Rufio, the guy that Bayek is tasked to kill as the overarching goal of the DLC, also gets this treatment with his standardized face and character model being sequestered onto a barely defended boat where he can be dispatched within 2 minutes of combat even starting. Should I even ask at this point how far down Ubisoft's basement is in their bargain bin? Even the one moment in this game where things got slightly interesting when Bayek was being crucified by the Romans was wrecked by Bayek being saved by a Deus Ex Machina, Aya, just happening to be in Sinai at the precisely right time to save her ex-lover from the stupidest spearman Rome had to offer, who chose not to eliminate the Egyptian in spite of having 3 opportunities to do so. After getting freed and getting revenge on Rufio, Ubisoft found out that they'd only built the DLC up to 7 missions instead of the contractually required 8, so they decided to throw out a bullshit second ending like the main game's 4 different back-to-back endings, and just end up labeling the Sinai assassin leader as an enemy, just to give the player another thing to do. Gamalat's boss fight is also terrible, with him being overpowered with tons of health, and can also set you on fire, frequently. Thankfully, Ubisoft also decided to set his boss fight on a dock, so if you are ever in any danger, just throw yourself into the sea to heal up before trying again. And again. And again. What was even the point of this? The whole extra mission was predicated on a throwaway line which Bayek used to Dr. House his way into figuring out why the Sinai assassins were dealing with so many Templar conflicts. Considering the hyper-violent time that this game is set, is what Gamalat is doing really all that bad? Sure, he's provoking the Templars, but they're the ones doing all this murdering, and the end result is more recruits who fight with him because his provocations keep setting the Romans to burn their villages. So who is really the monster in all of this? At least Gamalat had the decency to go down with honor when he was eventually defeated, leading to a more morally righteous assassin order. If you decide to purchase this DLC, I think you're going to get your money's worth more on the side missions, which are actually interesting, instead of playing through this extra kill list mission that Ubisoft threw together out of spare parts. You get to go on a treasure hunt, avenge a couple of assassins, and stop some child labor mining camp, so there's at least some substance elsewhere in this DLC. But the main game stuff is so unambitious and lazy that you'll find yourself most likely getting bored halfway through and wonder why you even parted with the cash to have this experience. Otherwise, if you were one of the people who genuinely liked AC Origins, then know that this DLC is another 4 hours of that game, so you'll be covered if you want to spend more time with the newest Creed game. I didn't enjoy the main game, so I personally can't recommend this product, where it looks like Ubisoft only barely tried to get something together for another payout. The ending achievement was only pinged by 4% of the game's audience, but since the Creed games tend to sell at least 6 million or so copies, and even if only 1 million of those are X-Bone copies, that's still $400,000 Ubisoft made off of Xbox Live with just this DLC, so I'm sure it was worth it to them if it wasn't to me.